In this episode, I'm going to break down what's the most profitable service you need to be offering in your business. And let me tell you right now, the answer might surprise you. And a quick message is that Jobber Grants is back and they are awarding $150,000 to 15 businesses. That means each business is going to get $10,000 in grant. So this is not a loan. It's not a credit line. You don't pay anything back. You can click the link down below to apply. It takes like under 5 minutes to apply. And you will receive, well, you got to go through the steps and do all that stuff, right? But they're going to choose 15 businesses to get $10,000. You can use this to, whatever you want. Buy equipment, pay off debt, down payment for a van, training, running ads, like whatever you want to do in your business. It's your money and you can use it however you want. So the deadline is June 11th. And I'm telling you, take advantage of this because who would say they won't be able to grow their business if they have $10,000 ready to use? So click the link down below and apply. And let's get started with this episode. So what are the most profitable services to offer in your detailing business? Where can you really make the money? Is it in the paint correction and ceramic coatings where you can charge anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 for a correction and coating? Is it maybe doing the concourse level details when you're wet sanding and such, and they can go from, let's say you charge $6,000 for like the craziest, most concourse level detail? Is it maybe PPF vinyl wrap window tint where you can average anywhere between $100 to $200 an hour doing those services? Now, a lot of times, for the most part, at least, what I see on social media and talking to detailers, people think that, the real money is going to be in the more high-end services, right? Correction, coatings, multi-step, wet sanding, concourse level details, window tint, PPF, vinyl wrap. The issue I have with that, and the issue that I see where it's so easy to get caught up in that mentality, especially with other detailers that are selling that quote-unquote dream or setup, is that it really doesn't matter what service you offer. If the back end numbers make sense for those services, you can grow your business to whatever level you want. And here's the thing, right? And I see this all the time, right? Let's say you're like, I want to make, it's usually $10,000 a month or $100,000 in a year, right? That's typically the thing that people like to plan around, right? And, a lot of times some people, the most wrong way of planning for your goals is to say, okay, if you want $10,000 in revenue, let's say per month, right? Well, then all you need is 10 $1,000 details, and that's going to get you to your goal. So you don't even have to do that many. All you have to do is 10 per month, right? That's kind of the way that I see it all the time. That's just 10 details a month. You can't do that. That's literally just 2.5 per week or what have you, right? And it's like, it's so simple. Like you can do that on the side, right? If you're planning on any service based on the amount of cars you need to do or just the overall cost of the service, you are going to mismanage the money, the time, completely wrong. And what I'm getting at here is it doesn't matter if you're charging $8,000 for a full PPF job, or if you're charging $800 for interior detail, or if you're charging $120 for maintenance wash. If the numbers don't make sense, you will go out of business. If the numbers make sense, you can continue to grow your business, right? Like let's say there's a PPF job I'm making up numbers here, that it's $12,000, right? Now in this $12,000, this isn't all revenue. Specifically labor revenue, right? We only make money when we're working on cars. Pretty self-explanatory. So if we have a $12,000 PPF job, do we account all of that for revenue in our business? No. So like, let's say you want to run at a 20% profit margin, right? On this $12,000 job, you would say, okay, if we're running at 0.20, right? Just multiply it times 0.20, we're going to have $2,400 in profit on this job, right? This, just doing that most basic math is already wrong. Why? Because a portion of this cost goes to material, right? So again, I'm just making up an example. Let's say of this 12,000, I don't know, let's say 2,000 of that is material, right? So now effectively we have $10,000, right, in labor cost, right? So now if we want to run at first we thought it was going to be 2,400, but now that we're running the numbers, we're going to say, okay, actually out of 10,000 at a 20% profit margin, we should be making $2,000 in profit margin. All right. Now here's the other kicker, right? If you want to charge, let's say $100 an hour, if you were charging if you did the math on 12,000, that means you would have 120 hours of budgeted hours to complete the job, right? But since we're working off of 10,000, we actually only have 100 hours to finish this job. Meaning, if you like the amount of times I've spoken with detailers, and this goes over the last 10 years. Like this isn't last week, over the last 10 years, okay? Where there's a detailer who's showing you how to make money, who's talking this Facebook ads, marketing, SEO, scale your business. And then they ask me, hey, so what CRM are you using? And I'm like, what CRM are you using? Right? And it's like, oh, well, we're using this one over here. And I'm like, okay. So like, how do you track? And then I go into the question, well, how do you track? Are you currently tracking your hours in terms of what everyone is clocking in on the jobs? Are you tracking the employees clocking out? Do you use, what CRM do you use to do payroll then? Because you have employees. And the big shocking answer is, oh, they're not doing any of that. Which goes to show me that, again, marketing, sales, numbers, operations are all different parts of your business. I can talk to you all day about generating 100, 200 leads per month. You could still go out of business. We could talk about sales and how to close and follow up. You can still go out of business, right? Because everything has to be well connected. You can be getting 500 leads per month. If you're closing at a 10% close ratio, that means of 500 leads, you'll book 50 jobs on the schedule. If you're paying for ads to get those leads, you can run yourself out of business because you're not watching your numbers, right? So let's say on this one, we had $10,000 of labor revenue. And if we want to make $100 an hour, we have 100 budgeted hours to complete this job. Right? Because all you do, if you just look at it, you're gonna do 10,000. You're gonna do 10,000. And again, I do this just so you can see just how you do the numbers. But do this for literally any numbers that you have. Divided by 100, and we have 100 hours in budgeted hours. Right? Now you're like, oh, well, of course you can finish it in that job. Again, we're just making up a made up example. Okay? I don't know if you're gonna be working on it by yourself, with 2 people, with 3 people. If you're gonna get someone to come help you, I don't know. But we have 100 budgeted hours. Right? So if you're able to finish that job in 80 budgeted hours, right? Now we'll take that same $10,000 and divide it, right, by 80. So now effectively for this job, you actually made looks a little ugly. You actually made $125 an hour. Fantastic. The more the better, right? Congrats. Now, if we're not tracking, if we're not being diligent, maybe we just underquoted it wrong. Maybe the material turned out to be a bit more because you miscalculated something and you have to order another, or maybe you messed up somewhere with the kit and now you order another, I don't know, what have you, right? And now let's say that you have to order more material, what have you. Well, now that's going to eat into our budgeted hours, right? So let's say you had 100, you made a mistake, and now instead of it just being 2,000, it's 2,500, right? 2,500 in material cost. Well, now, again, just doing the most basic math, 12,000 minus 2,500 is going to get us $9,500 in labor revenue now, right? So, again, super simple math, but just divide 9,500 divided by 100 because that's your hourly rate goal that you want to hit. And now you have 95 hours. I'll just stay here. 95 budgeted hours to complete that job. Now, if you're already in it, let's say 15 hours, you have to calculate that and say, okay, we had to order a bit more material than expected. If we still want to hit $100 an hour, we now have to cut off, again, let's say you're 20 hours into it, of let's say the 100 hours. So now you technically have 80. And now, what did I say? 95. So let's say you have to cut down 5. So now effectively we have to work with 70, we have to work with the remaining 75 budgeted hours that we have in order to still hit our goals, right? The issue becomes, oh, sorry, I hit the mic. The issue becomes when you track literally nothing. You don't know what the material cost is. You don't know the labor revenue. You don't know your hourly rate. You don't have your team members clocking in and out on other jobs. That way you can actually track. Because when it's by yourself, it's the easiest thing in the world. It's just you, right? When you get to 1, 2, and let's say to some people, 3, 4 people, everyone's working on a different vehicle. And you have to make sure, hey, how much time is each person spending on each car? Because each car has a set budgeted hours to hit our goals. So you might be saying, oh, 100 budgeted hours. Oh, dude, of course we can handle that. Things go, it's just, you're working on a project, right? You're doing a front bumper. It's super complex, super complicated. You wanted to do a kit. Turns out not the best fitment. You tear it off. You go with a bulk. You just, I don't know. Let's say you just double the time now because there's a lot of sensors. You have to cut a lot. You're trying to do as minimal pieces that you have to do. It just takes you a lot longer. So the issue is, you might say, oh, well, 8,000, 10,000. Of course you can make money there, right? Let's say, with 2 people, things happen, whatever. You get to 120 hours that it actually takes you to finish that job, right? And again, all you do is let's stay with the let's stay with the 10,000. So do 10,000 divided by what I say 120. So now you're actually at $83 an hour for that job. Now this one might be extreme because I don't think most people aren't doing full PPF jobs. Like that's not the population, the majority of the population here, right? Including us. We don't do that many. We haven't done a full body PPF yet. But it really doesn't matter at what level I'm telling you. These are the same principles that apply to any numbers, right? You think you're making one number. Once you track everything and you see what you're actually making, you can make $83 an hour doing an interior detail, right? Because now, if you say, let's say there's an interior job for $400, and your hourly rate, let's just say your hourly rate goal is let's keep it at $85 an hour, right? That means for a $400 detail on the interior, you have 4.7 budgeted hours to complete that job, right? That's why I say it's not so much about the type of service that you're doing. If the back end numbers make sense, you can grow your business. And I'm not going to say to what level. If you want to make 100,000, grow to that. If you want to make 400, go to that. If you want to go to 800, go to that. If the back end numbers make sense, you can grow your business. So now let's take that example of, oh, I want to make $100,000 in a year, right? And you might have to say, okay, well, if I could just get $1,000 details and do 10 of those per month, that'll give me the 10,000 per month, right? We are missing out a huge factor into all of this, as I've been mentioning this whole time. It's your budgeted hours. This is such a key thing here to everything. Because you don't look at things in terms of what's a total price. You don't need to say, oh, I need 10 details. The amount of details you do doesn't really matter, right? To an extent, depending on the report you're going to look at, sure. But in terms of hitting your goals, it doesn't. Because if your goal is to hit let's say $100,000 for the year, right? And you say, okay, I want to make, let's just say you're starting, it doesn't matter. Let's just choose the easy number. Let's say $50 an hour for if you're just getting started, you're not the most established, you're still kind of learning. Let's say $50 an hour, right? So all you're going to do is $100,000 divided by 50, which is your hourly rate goal. You need I'm sorry. Oh, I put the dollars in. Oh, get this out of here. Oh, come on. You need 2,000 budgeted hours of work on the schedule for 1 year at $50 an hour to hit this goal right here. I'm not telling you that has to be a correction or a coating or window tint or PPF or paint correction or smoke order. That part I'm not telling you. Whatever job you have on the schedule, as long as it's at $50 an hour, you are going towards your goal. That's why I say it. I don't care if you're trying to do a maintenance detail and trying to build a maintenance program, and I don't care if you're trying to have the most high-end shop and doing nothing but PPF and vinyl wraps on high-end vehicles. If the back end numbers don't make sense, you can still go out of business. You can still have a very unprofitable business. You could still be barely skimming by, even if you have a $1.5 million business, because of all these numbers right here. And on that same token, on that same side, if you're doing express type details, but all your numbers are in line and you're hitting your goals and you're hitting your efficiency rate and you're hitting your productivity rates, you can continue to grow your business because you know your margins. You know where you're making money. You're running an efficient business. So the worst thing to do is to say, oh yeah, such and such makes $300,000 a year in their business, so they must be successful. This number alone here means nothing. You can have a business that makes $2 million a year and barely have any profit, barely making it by, right? Like, let's take a look at this. Let's say there's one business that makes $175,000 per year with basically, let's say, 2 people, right? And then you have this other business that's making, let's go crazy, 800,000, right? And they have 8 people, right? Now, to most people that say, "Oh, man, I want the $800,000 business," like, "Oh, that's all, they're almost at $1 million, right? Oh, they're so successful. Look, they have 8 people working for them, right?" Let's say because this person, it's the owner and 1 employee, and they're super efficient. They work hard. They have all their systems down. They know what they're doing. Yada yada yada. Let's say they run at, because they're watching their expenses. They're not doing anything that they don't need. They don't have debt. They don't have loans. They don't buy things to look good on social media. It's a well-oiled machine. They have good route density. They're not going all over the place. They're just a very good company, right? And let's say they're operating at 30% profit margin, right? Now, don't get me wrong, they're probably working. The owner's tired, or they're active, right? But let's say they're able to run at 30% profit margin, right? Let's say it's $800,000 business that probably has 1 too many employees, that isn't tracking everything, that's not sure where the money's going on. All they just see is a top line revenue, and they're operating at a 5% profit margin, right? So that means at the with the 175 with the first business in profit, right? In profit, they have $52,500 in profit, right? With the business with 800,000 at a measly little 0.5% profit margin, they're making 40,000. So the business with 2 people, with less headaches, with less overhead, with less management, with less everything, has $52,000 in profit per year, making almost 1/4 of the other company, while the much bigger company, who probably has a shop, multiple vans, multiple employees, looks great on social media, has $40,000 in profit. So many of us are so locked in to this top number right here to say, "Oh, I want to hit 100,000. Oh, I want to hit $1 million," without understanding all the back end numbers. That's why it's never a surprise whether you're making 100,000 or $1 million, that there's no profit in the business and you're barely making it by, and the bank account isn't getting bigger, and you have very small margins, and you can't invest in other things because all the back end numbers don't make sense. So if you want to make $100,000 in 1 year, and you want to make and you want to charge $50 per hour, that means on the schedule for the year, you need 2,000 budgeted hours of work. So now, let's say, 2,000 divided by 12, right? Let me go back to white. That's going to be 166 budgeted hours per month. And if you break that down, do 166 divided by 4, that's going to be 41.5 budgeted hours per week. That is the math right there. So if you're doing maintenance details, right? And let's say for a maintenance detail, let's say on average, it takes you 1.5 hours, right? That means, what the heck is this? 41.5 divided by 1.5. That means you need 27 jobs on the schedule per week to to hit this number, right? Now, this is still a concept, right? This does give you a much more accurate look at the jobs and what numbers you need to be hitting. But with all these numbers here, the only way you know if they're actually effective or to give you actionable insight on what you need to do to make these numbers better is by tracking everything. Even if you're by yourself as a solo detailer, you still need to know how long specifically you're taking on the jobs. How many hours are you spending working on a car per day, per week, per month? Because this will give you insight once you hire someone on what those numbers should look like with two people. The issue is so many of us, because we're the owner, right? Remember, the fastest way to grow your business is to stop thinking about yourself as the owner. Like even here, I tell them, like, don't call me the owner. Like if we're gonna do a TSA, which is a test spot assessment, it's just like a short little. If we say TSA, we know someone's coming to the shop. That's it. Like it might be a smoke odor removal, it might be paint correction, it might be vinyl wrap, it might be PPF, it might be a window tint. If we just say TSA, it just means someone's coming to the shop. So when someone comes to the shop for a TSA and it's a paint correction, and let's say like the paint's quite hammered, it's oxidized, what have you, Angel will say, oh, let me go get you my paint correction specialist and let me have him do a test spot for you. He doesn't say, oh, let me get the owner. No, I'm a part of the system. I don't want to be called the owner. They don't need to know I'm the owner. He called me the paint correction specialist, right? Anyways, the issue is we think we're the business owner. Oh, so I don't need to clock in, and I don't need to track that because I'm the business owner. Well, if you want to grow your business and take it to whatever next level you want it to be, think of yourself as an employee. If you were an employee, how would you track that employee? How would you know how many hours, how productive he is? And how do you know how much revenue he's producing for the business? Because then if you have that same mentality by yourself, you're going to completely miss the mark when you hire someone, right? So that's why I say, like, what's the most profitable? It's the one that you know it's any service if you understand the numbers, right? Now, obviously, PPF, window tint, things like that. Is it easier to lean towards like a higher hourly rate? Sure, to an extent. But if you're efficient, if you're generating quality leads, if you have a solid sales process, if you know your numbers, well, you can hit the same numbers doing interior detail. Look at the lawn care companies who mow lawns. They hit between $80 to $110 an hour mowing lawns, property cleanups, gutter cleaning. To most of us, that's the equivalent of us doing interior details and wash and waxes. And we're saying, that's too small of service. I want the paint correction. If we systematize our business, understand the back end numbers of which ones we need to hit to make sure we're profitable and we're growing, I do not care what service you're going to do. Because there's also PPF shops out there who I've spoken to. They're like, man, it's really hard to be profitable here. Is it really though? Now, don't get me wrong. There's always going to be constraints and hurdles on the market. Your customers, like, a lot more people are more likely to spend, $300 on an interior detail than they are spending $12,000 on a full PPF job, right? Naturally. But you're going to find constraints everywhere. I mean, that's the whole point of being in business. Like, all you're doing is solving problems for the next 20 years. Like, that's all you're doing, literally. So when someone says, oh, it's just not profitable doing this PPF. Oh, it's not profitable doing vinyl. It's not profitable doing interior details. Well, is it not profitable, or do you just not have your system set up? Do you not? And a large part of we're super efficient and this, that. A big part of all of this is just understanding the back end numbers, right? So let's look at the same example, right? Of saying, oh, I want to make $100,000 in 1 year, right? Now at $50 an hour, we said, oh, you need to have 2,000 budgeted hours on the schedule, right? Now, if we say, oh, well, I'm going to charge $80 an hour, that's my goal, right? That shifts the numbers greatly, right? Of saying, oh, $100,000 divided by 80. So now we need 1,250 budgeted hours on the schedule per year, right? It was 2,000 at $50 an hour. Where is it? I don't know where it's at. It was 2,000 budgeted hours of work on the schedule at $50 an hour. But if you can get to $80 an hour, that now changes to 1,250. So then that means Oh, I do that. That means per month now, we are at 104 budgeted hours per month. So with the other example we had done, I keep on missing the 2000. With the 2000, the $50 an hour, it was last year. Okay, there it goes. It was 41. It was 166 budgeted hours per month, and now it's 104 because we're charging $80 an hour. Now again, the next thing is like, oh, I hear this all the time where I'm breaking down the numbers, and they'll say, oh, well, why don't I just charge $100 an hour? It's like, well, yeah, that's the whole point. You want to charge as much as you can. The issue with that now becomes is, can you charge $100 an hour, right? Can you so if that's the goal, yes, it like fantastic. If you get like that is the goal right there. Get to $100 an hour. And really that's not the goal. It could be 80, 90, 125, 120. The point is you're consistent and it's sustainable, right? But it's well, what if I could I might as well just charge $100 an hour. Okay, so now that means if there's a 6-hour detail that you think is going to take you on an interior detail, you must charge $600. And any hour or, any minute, really, like if it's 30 minutes, then 0.5, right? Anytime over those 6 hours, you're no longer hitting $100 an hour. And that's what I see most of the time. Oh yeah, we make $100 an hour. Oh yeah, but that one took a little longer, and that one took a little longer too. And well, we weren't expecting that one. And most of the time, you're hitting more like 70, 80, which is still great, but not 100. And then the next biggest issue is so many detailers. When I mean so many, I mean so many will say, oh, well, I want to hit $100 an hour. But turns out they're working with 2 people. And you know what that means? Is you're nowhere near $100 an hour. Because you're looking at it per job, it has to be per man per hour. Because if you work for 1 hour and you're charging $100 an hour and there's 2 people, you don't give person A 100 and person B 100. From this $100 that you have right here, right? From this $100 that you have right here, you're going to give 50 to this person. Wow. And then 50 to this person. And that's what makes $100 an hour. If you truly wanted to make $100 an hour, it has to be per man per hour. That means if you have person A here, and then you have person B here, and you work from, call it 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., right? That's 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. That's 4 hours that you worked on that job. And a lot of people will say, oh, yeah, I charge $400 for that. But that's the biggest issue right there. There's 2 of you, right? So this took 8 hours to complete. So this 4-hour detail that you've charged $400 for, you realistically have to charge $800 for this job in order to truly make $100 per man per hour. It's not total time that you're there. It's total man hours. That's why we go with budgeted hours. Because if you, and now I'm just making up examples, but if, whatever. Let's say there's a $700 job, right? And you want to make, $85 an hour, right? So you have 8.2 hours of budgeted hours, right? The issue becomes now is that with 8.2, whether you have like if one person is working on that job, it's gonna take 8.2. If 2 people are working on that job, guess what? It's still gonna take 8.2 hours. The only difference is now you can finish it in 4.1 hours. But it's 2 people, so it's still 8.2 hours worth of work, right? And let's follow that same notion. If it's 8.2 hours, but there's 3 people, well, guess what? You're still finishing 8.2 budgeted hours of work, but you're going to get that done in 2.7 hours. So the budgeted hours for the job remains the same at all times, whether it's 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, or 4 people. The issue becomes, you say, oh, that's a 4-hour detail, right? Oh, we finished it in 2 hours. Or 4 hours, let's say. You finish it in 4 hours. Yeah, all 3 of us finish in 4 hours. So if there's 3 people on a 4-hour job, that's 12 total man hours that are worked there. So if you want to make $85 an hour, then you're going to go 12 times 85, and that job should actually be 1,020, 1,020 for that job. Not just, whatever, $400 because you want to make, $100 an hour. That's not how it works. Okay, so I'll stop right there because I could go on for like another 2 hours, but I'm gonna make more content on the numbers because, again, like, it doesn't matter if you're generating 100 leads a month, if you're spending 2,000 a month on ads, and you're like, oh, we're fully booked out, you could still not make any money. You could still not be profitable. You can still grow yourself out of business, regardless if you have 100 leads per month, regardless if you have fully booked out schedule, regardless if you're hiring someone, regardless if you have money coming into your business. You can still go out of business because you're not watching over the back end numbers that you don't see, right? Like there's nothing pointing you at these numbers. Like you have to know these because you have to know what numbers to look at. So I'll definitely be making more content on this one. So if you want to learn more about this, inside of my Detailers Growth Academy, I have a full module on knowing your numbers. So everything I just said here goes way more in depth inside that course. If you want to check that out, it'll be down below. And then Jobber grants, the deadline for applying to get that $10,000 grant into your business is on June 11th. So I'll have both those links down below in the description box. Other than that, I will talk to you guys on the next one.